Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this is episode 3 of Joyful Julie Live. If you don't know me, I am Joyful Julie Griffin. I decided to go ahead and start a live show just to have conversations with interesting people who I think are doing wonderful things that I think more people in the world need to know. Want to give a quick shout out to my producer behind the scenes, Chris Hennessy with Firebird Studios. And without any further ado, I want to bring out my guest for tonight, Miss Amanda Stern. Hello, Amanda.
Julie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I have just loved following all of your posts about journaling over the last, 6-ish months. I mean, I think we probably connected fairly early in that journey, and journaling's always been something that I've dabbled in, and so I've just been blown away with what you've shared, and I thought, you know what, like, this is something that more people need to know about, and so I was super excited when I asked you to come on, and you said, of course. So we've got lots of people hopping in here. If you are watching either on LinkedIn or on any of my other paired channels, make sure and comment because we don't know you're here if you don't drop a comment, and we would love to be able to interact with you. Hi, Lauren. Holly's here. I don't know who LinkedIn user is, but we've got LinkedIn user. Sometimes that's Amanda. I just drew a blank on her last name. NICU Amanda. Knight. Oh, it's Eric the recruiter. Okay. That's who LinkedIn user is tonight. And Val's here too. I know Val was really excited about our live, so I'm super excited. All these people dropping comments. And so yeah, let's just get started. So just for those of us here who don't really know Miss Amanda Stern, just kind of give us a brief intro who you are.
Yeah. So in my 5 to 9, and I think that's the most exciting part that's going on in my life right now, I am a journaling coach. And it came about accidentally on purpose about 6 months ago. I had been posting on LinkedIn, I don't know, for a while, and then decided to do brand 30. And in brand 30, they tell you need something to write about. Could be 2 things, no more than 3, but pick something. And I thought, well, I could probably talk about journaling for 3 or 4 days, maybe a week if I stretched it. And that'll buy me some time to figure out what I really want to talk about. And I've just been blown away by how journaling has resonated with people and the doors that it's opened. So it's really exciting to meet people, to help them journal, start journaling and start journaling better, and really watch people work magic in their lives through journaling.
That's awesome. I love that. So what's your not so exciting 9 to 5?
Yeah. So in my 9 to 5, I'm a librarian, which actually is pretty exciting. I work for a statewide organization here in Connecticut, and we support Connecticut libraries mainly through procurement and saving them lots of money on the products that they want and need. So
Very
it's
cool.
fun.
Very cool. So I feel like librarian, do you read a lot also?
Not as much as you think I would, but no librarian I know reads as much as we'd like to.
Understandable. Very good. So I know when people think of the term journaling, probably several different things come to mind. And so I know one of the things I wanted to clarify tonight was when we say journaling, what does that mean? And then what is your definition and specifically what we're going to dive deeper in tonight?
Yeah. So journaling at the very basics, to me, is writing something down. Usually I think of it as my thoughts and feelings, what's going on in my day. I mean, my journal is really a catch-all. Any thoughts I have in my head probably end up in my journal at some point and in some way, shape, or form. So journaling to me is having a place to be able to organize my thoughts, to organize my day, to write down how I feel and what I think, to really find clarity and direction, to set intentions for the day. Really, I haven't figured out anything that journaling can't do for me when I try.
Very cool. Very cool. I know when I first thought of journaling, a lot of people think it's, dear diary, I'm a 14-year-old girl writing about my crush. And I think it's so neat that that is not, I mean, that could also be considered journaling, but that's not what you're talking about, not what we're going to focus on.
Though I will tell you, I have done that kind of journaling. So my journaling has been all across the board. I've been journaling since I was a teenager. So I've had angsty teenage journaling. I've had I'm a serious adult journaling. I've had wham, my life is terrible and miserable journaling. I've had boy, my life is really miserable. I better dive deep into gratitude journaling. About 7 years ago, I got divorced and was back out in the dating world. So I really did have a teenage girl dear diary. Here are all the people that I'm talking to and interested in. And, here's the fun dates we went on. And I was just telling, I've got 3 teenagers at home, just telling my youngest one, because she's very interested in dating and boys and all of the things, and just sharing with her some stories. But yeah, so everything ends up eventually in my journal, and I've just talked myself around in circles, and now I don't remember what the actual question was.
That's okay. I'm going to pop up just kind of talking about the different types of journaling and like what might come to mind. And I
Yeah.
know one of the things that comes to mind for me is like artistic journaling. So I'm going to pop that up just as an example. Like, this is what somebody might think of as artistic journaling, right?
Yeah, no, this is art journaling. It is beautiful. It is wonderful. I don't do it. That's a lie. I took a workshop. I have done it. It's very cool for a lot of things. I love to watch art journaling TikToks, to watch people rip the paper and glue it on the page. It's super relaxing. It's super soothing. My mom is this kind of a journaler, or she would be if she would let herself journal.
Okay.
And it's really cool to get to express yourself and how you feel in images and art, if that is how your brain works or how you're comfortable expressing things. That is not what I do, because I find I get caught up in all the stuff of that and don't do any actual, for me, journaling. So
Right.
my my journaling looks much different. It is much less interesting. My journaling doesn't even look this interesting. This is me. This is me. All of my pages look almost exactly like that. This was some point last year. It's my Sunday accountability journaling, where I go through each of my goals, report on the progress that I make, and just acknowledge and celebrate all the stuff that I've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, art
Yeah.
journaling, it can
And
be really complicated, Brandy.
absolutely. And even like, people talk about, bullet journaling, and, bullet journals have been really popular, and they may work for some people, but like for me, this is absolutely overwhelming. Like, and I have tried before, like, and I just quit before I even get started because there's so much that goes into it. And so I think for somebody who wants to be more intentional about journaling and get better about it, knowing that you have been so successful and have gleaned so much from journaling, and this is what yours looks like to me, that's doable. Like,
Yeah.
I can scribble words on a page. So I think, just knowing that it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be anything like either the bullet journal or the artistic journaling. Like, yes, it's absolutely beautiful, but I think we would find that it doesn't serve the same purpose as what we're really here to talk about.
Yeah. And purpose is actually the best word, and I'm glad you use it, because that's where I always start with people. When
Mm-hmm.
people say to me, "Well, I want to start journaling, where do I start?" I always start with, "Well, what's your purpose for journaling? What is it that you want to do? What are you trying to accomplish?" Because there are so many different ways to journal. Knowing what we want to accomplish helps us figure out how we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to um, if I want to lift my mood and feel better about my life and the world around me, I'm likely to dive really deep into gratitude. And I
Mhm.
think we've all heard of gratitude journaling. We've all probably tried it or thought about trying it or think we know exactly what it is. Um, and it's awesome and I love it. But the way I go about it and the results I get are different than when I want to track my progress toward my goals. Just my
Okay.
approach is much different. So
Okay.
I always start with, what do you want to accomplish? Do you want, and I usually give like a menu of choices. Do you want to better understand what you think and how you feel? Do you want to increase your gratitude? Do you want to hold yourself accountable? Do you want to find clarity and direction? Do you
Mhm.
want to set intentions for how you're going to show up each day? Right. And so I always think of these as different tools in your toolbox. Um, like the standard old journaling toolbox. You have a toolbox at your house and you've got a hammer, right? And a
Mhm.
hammer does lots of great, important things, but your hammer isn't going to fix your broken sink.
Right.
You're going to need some wrenches or maybe a screwdriver or some other kinds of tools. And all together, this collection of tools helps you get the job done. And so I think journaling is kind of the same way, that there are all kinds of different ways to journal. And I might mix and match them even on one particular day within one journaling session to really look at what I'm trying to get into.
Awesome. I want to pop this comment up real quick too. Chris Bogue, which he does a lot of live, so I'm super excited that he's here. But he also does comedy, and he talked about journaling was huge when he was writing sketch comedy shows. And so just another avenue that like I hadn't thought of. That is, it's a way that some people do use journaling. Dan asked, I'm not sure if he was talking about your journal or the Bujo or the artistic one, but maybe just do you have a favorite type of pen that you
Um,
use?
Yeah, I like a really fine point gel pen.
Mm-hmm.
I find that my handwriting is neater. The more fine point my pen is. This is no particular endorsement. It's just what I happen to have. It's
Yep.
a Pilot Precise V5 rolling ball
Mm-hmm.
gel pen. I like it again because it's an extra fine point. I'm also really finicky about the lines in my journal. So you'll see they're really closely ruled individual
Mm.
lines, probably a Bow college rule. And I like it because I just write neater when this is what I have. The bullet journaling picture that had up, I think they used brush markers.
Mm.
So it had more of a calligraphy kind
Yeah.
of look. But I find, yeah, just a pen. And the cool part about journaling is you don't need anything fancy to do it. I know people, myself included, who've done really great work in a 25-cent composition notebook and a mechanical pencil. That's actually how I started journaling. I was an angsty teenager having a really hard day. None of my friends could come to the phone, so I picked up a notebook and a mechanical pencil and I started writing. So you don't need anything special or fancy. I always tell people, start with what you have, start where you are. Don't complicate it. Journaling doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be fancy. It's an opportunity for you to hold space for yourself,
Yep.
is the way I love to think about it.
Absolutely. And I think we could all do better with allowing space for ourselves. Um, so Travis just hopped in, and yes, we're talking about pens. We like pens.
Yep.
I am a big fan. So normally I don't use super fine tipped pens, but this is one of the ones that you sent me after the fire for my journaling, and I'm a big fan. Like it's super like tiny and precise, and I'm not a neat writer, so even when the lines are close together, my handwriting will go big and small, and it's all over the place. Um, Dan commented the Graft Von. Like, do you know what kind of pen that is? Is that like that super crazy expensive pen, Dan? Like, because I have a friend who is like a super pen snob, and that seems like a fancy name for like a $200 pen. So
Nice.
I would be curious to know.
I'm totally going to check it out as soon as we're done here. For sure. Yeah. So handwriting is something I hear about a lot. People saying, "Oh, I want to journal, but I don't like my handwriting. Or sometimes in my LinkedIn posts, I'll just show a photo of me writing in my journal. And inevitably somebody comments on like, oh, well, if my handwriting looked like your handwriting, then I would journal. Right. And to which I always say, our journals don't judge. So don't judge yourself. Your handwriting and your spelling and your grammar, none of those count. And if you can put all of that aside and just get the work done, it'll make it so much easier for you to do some really, really useful journaling.
And I think that's important because I think that comes with a lot of different things in life is like you don't necessarily like the way you do it, so you don't do it at all. Like I'm not a big fan of what my recorded voice sounds like, but with practice, I've gotten over it. And here I am doing lives. Like would have never thought that that would be a thing that I would do, but here I am. And so I think that's great. Like don't let what your handwriting looks like stop you from all the good things that can come from it. So that's awesome. Dan says they created the modern pencil. What is a modern pencil? Like my Bic Eco Clicker pencil or like the Ticonderoga? Like those are my two categories of pencil. Oh, he dropped a link. We'll have to look at that.
Oh, that is fancy. Holy cow. That is very fancy. Yeah. Oh, I like that comment. Can you pop? Yeah. Writing is just thinking. Give it to the page. And if it's sloppy, fix it in draft 2.
I love that.
I love this. And journaling doesn't have to be neat. You don't even have to do a draft 2 of your journaling. I have people ask me all the time, how often do you go back and reread what you've written? Right. And my answer is hardly ever. I only go back to reread if I'm looking for something in particular. Because for me, writing it down is enough. That there's magic every morning. I'm a morning journaler. There's magic in sitting down and writing down all the loose thoughts that are on my brain and putting them in the page. And then my brain doesn't have to work to try to remember all of those things. And I freed up all the space to be creative and to really be able to be reflective and introspective first thing in the morning. So yeah, writing is just thinking. That's awesome. Exactly it.
So you mentioned that you do it in the morning. So are you naturally a morning person, like wake up and you're like ready to go? So
yeah.
Okay. So it's like, I am not that person. Like I am very much a night owl. And so when I have journaled in the past, it's usually been like a brain dump and a prayer like before bed. And so I'll write about all the things. And then I usually close my journals like with the prayer. So is that just kind of one of those things that whatever works for who you are, or are there advantages to like morning versus evening versus, midday journaling?
Yeah. I always say the best time to journal is the time that you're going to journal.
Okay.
So I started out as an evening journaler because that's just when I thought of it. And that's just when it fit best in my life. And I found it worked really well for me when I was a teenager, when I was in college and staying up late anyways. Then I got married. I had some kids. I was busy. I was tired. I didn't journal nearly as much as I should have journaled. And so, yeah, for me, discovering that I could journal in the morning. And I tell you, it wasn't until the end of 2020 that I figured out how to make journaling a morning thing for me. Okay. It was, I have teenagers. They were doing school remotely. I had this chunk of time in the morning that I had never had before. We had just put up our Christmas tree. And I thought, it's so beautiful in front of this tree. Yeah. I'm going to just get up a few minutes earlier, go downstairs, cover up under my blue fuzzy blanket and sit by the lights of the Christmas tree and do my journaling. And I did some of the best journaling I have ever done those few weeks in front of my Christmas tree. So for me, where it fits now, I get up early, I exercise, I shower and get ready for the day, send my kids off into the world, and then I journal. So it's not very first thing, but it's pretty close to first thing. I'm still pretty fresh. But that's where it fits. If I don't, for whatever reason, do it in the morning, I figure it out later. Today, I toted my journal with me to work. Sometimes I do,
Mhm.
sometimes I don't. Sometimes I take it out of my bag and remember that I have it. Sometimes I don't. I find when I journal in the evening, my journaling tends to be more historical and more reflective and more
Mhm.
gratitude based, just
Okay.
naturally. Like, here's what I did today. Versus in the morning, it starts out, usually I start out with like a free write to just shake out all the loose thoughts. Then I do some gratitude. And then I can really use my journaling in the morning to be action oriented and set my intentions for how I want to show up each day. And I
Okay.
have 6 questions I love to ask myself in the morning. And usually I close my journaling out with it. I ask, what is the most important thing for me to do today? How can I show up as my best me? What does my soul need today? How will I feed my mind today? How will I take care of my body today? And who do I need to connect with today? And I love these questions. And I ask myself these questions almost every day. I love it because I get to take charge of my life,
Mm.
how I show up, and really be intentional about how I'm going to live. If I decide that well, it's not even deciding. If I take the time to listen, my body knows, my mind and my heart, all of me knows, today is a day that I need to speak my mind and I need to speak my truth no matter what happens. And other days, I can show up as my best me by taking a nap at lunchtime,
Mhm.
or by listening a little more carefully. Or, today is the day I need to connect with my sister. Just it's really helped me take better care of myself all the way around, and improve relationships too, which has been an unexpected benefit of journaling.
That's awesome. So I want to back up a second, and
Mhm.
I think Chris's comment here cracks me up. He can't journal unless he procrastinates beforehand. Like,
That's
that's
great.
kind of me with everything, it seems. But I want to back up to where you said when you first started journaling in front of the Christmas tree in the morning, you said that was some of your best
Yeah.
journaling. So what makes you say that it was your best journaling? What made it better than like other journaling days?
Yeah, I think because it was new, it was fresh, it felt magical because I
Mm,
was in front of the tree,
yeah.
because I shifted it to the morning, and it was the end of the year. So I used the opportunity to do this really robust end of year reflection and goal setting process. So it took me 2.5 weeks, I think, to do it. I worked through a series of questions. I came up with a word of the year that just
Mhm.
really just filled my soul. My word last year was grow. And I chose
Okay.
it because I was signed up to do a master gardener certification program. And I
Very
thought it was
cool.
cute and clever. I was going to grow plants.
Yep.
And then when I set these goals, all of my goals were about growth. I had a health goal, a finance goal, a relationship goal, a career goal. One other one I can't remember. It was a learning goal. I had a learning goal.
Okay.
And each of my goals, I realized they all tied together. And I was so excited to work on these goals that I instituted what I call my Sunday accountability journaling, because I
Okay.
didn't want to lose sight of these goals I
Mhm.
was so excited about. And I don't know if anyone listening has had this experience, or you, Julie, where you come up with these goals, you're super excited, you write them down, you close your book, and next year when you sit down to reflect, you remember, oh, I had
Oh
these goals.
yeah. I said I
Yeah,
was going
right.
to do that.
And so
Yeah.
each Sunday morning when I journal, I review each of my goals and I remind myself of why the goal was important to me. And then I record all of the progress that I've made, however small it is. And it's been such a helpful practice for me because I'm a high achiever who sets goals here. And I'm
Mhm.
happy to celebrate them when I'm here. So
Yep.
all of this here, even though I've made really great strides, I don't acknowledge, I don't celebrate it. So doing this
Mhm.
accountability journaling has helped me acknowledge and celebrate the tiny little bits of progress that I'm making, and
Mhm.
really keeps me motivated to work on my goals, but also helps me see all of the stuff that I'm doing that I've never allowed myself credit for.
Absolutely.
So last July, somebody asked me kind of, so what have you done this year? And I took the time to aggregate it. And I was like, holy cow. Like if I had seen this list, if you, Julie, had handed me this list, of all of these things, I'd be like, you are the most impressive human I've ever met. And then I was like, holy crap, that's me. And
That's
no wonder
me.
why I always need a nap, right?
That's
Um,
awesome.
so yeah, it was amazing. So I felt like at the end of the year, not only had I grown in all of these ways, but all of these opportunities had opened to me because I listened for them. And I took the
Mhm.
time to really pave the way and prepare myself for all of this great stuff to come flooding in.
That's awesome. I think it's really great because, like you said, a lot of high achievers, like even when they meet it, yay, I met it, but they really want to beat it. And so a lot of that work that goes into it really doesn't get the credit that it deserves, because there is a lot of work that goes into things. So I think that's awesome. You mentioned documenting those really helps you acknowledge the work that you're doing and the progress that you make, because if we don't acknowledge that sometimes, like, yeah, Chris is exactly right. You got to celebrate the small things. That's one of the things my mom always taught me when I was growing up was, celebrate small victories, because even a small victory is a victory. So yeah, documenting those things is so important. I'll throw this one up here. Brittany, she is one of my friends from way back. Like we go way back to our college days, and I am talking her into coming on a live here soonish. So I'm glad you're here, Brittany. I just there's so many good things here. I just love it. So when you talk about like your goals and you have your Sunday like accountability journaling, like do you have like steps that you've broken down, or do you just kind of think through like what is that process for holding yourself accountable?
Yeah. So I have four big goals this year. I have a health goal, which is to get at least 7 hours of sleep a night.
Okay.
It's a very achievable stretch goal for me. I'm a morning person in a house full of night owls. And if I don't go to bed early enough, I'm just going to be toast for the day. Right. So when I sit down to reflect on this goal, right, it's not complicated and it's not fancy, and it's almost embarrassing to show you how simple it is. I talk about how many nights this week I got 7 hours of sleep or more. I mean, it's as simple as this week I got, here was my entry: not enough sleep again this week. Well, why? Because I allowed myself to get distracted by other things. Weekends are especially hard because my husband's on the couch watching TV and I like to be near him. I'm aiming to be in bed at 9:30 each night this week. How am I going to do that? Right. So last week, I don't think I got in bed on time at all. So I work on any victory I have, I celebrate it. Any sticky spot, I think through why I'm stuck. Why am I not moving forward? Why am I not making progress here? And what am I going to do about it? Right. So my plan is to go to bed by 9:30 every night this week. What'll help me to do that? I'm going to wash up after dinner or after I finish all of my Zoom meetings for the night. And that way, when it's bedtime, I'm ready to hop into bed. I don't have to do all of that stuff. Yeah. So that's kind of how I do it. What have I done? Where am I stuck? How am I moving forward?
And so do you just recap those on the weekend? You don't have like a daily tracker or anything?
No, for a while I was playing with a habit tracker. I didn't put it in a convenient place for me to remember that I had a habit tracker. So if I was smart, I would have put it in my journal, but I had it on a clipboard under a calendar near my journal, which wasn't obvious enough. Yeah, an hour. Thank you, Miriam, for keeping me on target. So Miriam is in my journaling group. So this month I am running a morning journaling group from 8 to 8:30, Monday through Thursdays. I've got a group of women coming to journal with me. It is the coolest, best thing. And it's
I
so
love
fun
that.
because I've always thought of journaling as a solitary sport, right? Think of like actually playing solitaire. You don't
Yeah.
invite people over to watch you play, and I don't invite people over with their own deck of cards to play solitaire with me because it's sort of weird, but it's really, really cool. It's a virtual group, Chris, and we meet. I have journal prompts, and we journal, and then we share our experiences. Not necessarily what we wrote, and we don't have to share. But I always love to hold space for everybody in my group and just ask, "How was that for you? What came up? Is there anything you want to share?" And it's cool to see when you give a journal prompt, the different directions everybody goes with it, to see where we're aligned and where we all go on these totally different directions. So it
That's
has
awesome.
been so amazing to get to journal with other people and just have this completely different kind of journaling experience.
That's awesome. I so wish that I could do that, but I am number one central time zone. So that'd be like 7 to 7:30. And that's barely awake by then. And that's like exactly like getting the kids fed and out the door window. So it doesn't work now, but maybe if you do it again, I can make it work. Because I think that would be such a fun experience, and having that external accountability to help build that regular habit, I know would be huge for somebody like me. Like that's, I just know me, and that would help me make it stick.
Well, I'll tell you, Julie, that's how it started. I had a friend of mine on LinkedIn who sent me a voice memo, and she's like, "I just feel stuck because I can't make the time for myself. I know it's important. I know I should journal, but I can't make myself do it for me. But if I was accountable to somebody else for
Yep.
being there, maybe if we even had like a Zoom call that, even if cameras were off and we didn't talk, just knowing I had to journal at that time would be so helpful." So voila, our journaling group was born, and it's been the absolute best, greatest thing to happen.
That is so cool. Do you think that's, it's set up for the month of April so far? Is that something you're going to continue, or is it going to like just be April and that's it? Or what do you think that's going to look like going forward?
You know what? That is the conversation that came up in our journaling group yesterday. So yeah, still feeling it out. I think there may be some tweaks that I'm going to do. I'm thinking through maybe assigning topics for different weeks. I'm playing with a bunch of ideas. I'd love to do it. Actually, my initial plan was to do a morning group and then a late evening, like 9 to 9:30 Eastern time journaling session, so I could do it right before bed and then scoot off to bed. So yeah,
I would be down for that.
I am
Yes,
playing
yes, yes.
around with all kinds of ideas. Oh, journaling open for new people to join. Yeah, if you're interested, send me a message and I'll fill you in on the details and kind of how we do it, what we're looking to do. Yeah, so if you're interested, I'll say it probably isn't too late. Send me a message and we'll chat.
That's awesome. I hope people take advantage of that, because I just think it's such a great, such a great opportunity to get started and dig in on how journaling can amplify your life, really. One of the things I had written down was how journaling, because I know you've talked about this, is how journaling can help you clarify your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit more about what that process has been like for you, and how others might use journaling to gain clarity of their thoughts and feelings?
Yeah. For me, it always starts with what's going on, right? So if something's going on at work and I'm frustrated about it, I'm going to write it out. And in the process, I usually ask myself, how am I really feeling? Right now, I think I'm feeling frustrated, but am I really feeling frustrated? And I've gotten to know to know myself a lot better, but to understand feelings a lot better. In the last
Mhm.
couple of years, I've developed a much better feelings vocabulary. I
Okay.
credit Brene Brown and Atlas of the
Yes.
Heart, which if you've not read it, everyone should go read it. It's amazing. I credit my feelings wheel tool that I printed off the internet to help me kind of figure out which feeling
Mhm.
is which. But to really understand what I'm feeling, and for me, it's intuitive and it tumbles out when I write it. So I don't have the greatest answer because
Mhm.
writing has always come really naturally to me. It's been the learning to slow down and be quiet long enough to listen that
Mhm.
is the more complicated part. And the more I journal, the more practice I get being still and listening
Mhm.
and writing what I hear. And it's interesting. We were talking about this in group this morning that sometimes, or maybe it was yesterday, sometimes I'm pretty sure I know what's going to come out of my head. And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I know what I think, but I start putting it on the page. And sometimes I stop and I kind of do one of these, like, I can't believe that came out of me. Like
Mhm.
whether a beautiful thought or if it's a terrible thought, the truth comes out the longer I write.
Mhm.
Really magical. So for and it comes out to questions.
Okay.
I think it's probably the best answer as I'm going like all the way around to
No, it's
answer.
good.
Um, the better questions I ask myself, the better answers I get.
Mhm.
So journal prompts are really, really helpful for work like this, even if they're super basic journal prompts. So anyone who doesn't know what a journal prompt is, a journal prompt is an idea of what to write, and it's often phrased as a question. And
Okay.
I stick with really basic ones like, what's going on in my life right now? How do I feel about it? And then the magic trick is to ask why, right?
Okay.
I'm feeling frustrated. Why am I feeling frustrated? Well, because the thing didn't go the way I wanted it to. Well, why?
Mhm.
Well, I didn't do the work I needed to do to make that thing happen. Well, why didn't I? And it usually comes down to, well, I'm really scared to do the work that's going to get me the thing I say I wanted.
Mhm.
And then it's always like, oh, now I know exactly what I need to do.
Okay.
So, so yeah, I like to ask questions, then I like to ask why, and I ask why enough times to really get a good answer. That I think, I won't say it's the secret, but it's a
Mhm.
really good, not so any secret anymore secret.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I think there's a lot of situations. I know that's one of the things they talk about in business too, is doing the whole root cause thing. Like if something happens, well, why? And then I think there's actually like a 5 why process. Why did that happen? Well, why did that happen? And like I hadn't ever thought about applying that to like my life and how I'm feeling about how things are going and asking why to get to kind of the bottom of it. So I think that's an awesome, super helpful tip for pretty much anybody, no matter what they're going through. Um, One of the things you mentioned a minute ago was that writing has always been very natural or come very easy to you. For some of us who writing does not come easy, like what advice would you give to somebody who wants to start journaling, but when they think about, putting a pencil to paper, it just doesn't come out?
yeah, I would say be really gentle with yourself. Um, get rid of expectations and really focus on what you can control, right? I can control showing up every morning.
Mm-hmm.
I can control uncapping my pen, putting ink on paper. I can't always control how beautiful my words are.
Mm-hmm.
I can't control necessarily the thoughts that I have, but I can show up for myself each day. And I don't give myself ever a quota of how much I have to write. This is the luxury of writing for ourselves and not writing, for other people. Is some days I may sit and write one sentence. I had a few weeks ago, a few weeks ago. I sat down, I wrote one sentence, and I was like, "Yep, I feel done today." But I
Mm-hmm.
showed up and I did some work, and the next day was different. I have other days where I sit and I write I can write 15 pages and it's beautiful and my handwriting is lovely and I'm so proud of everything I accomplished. But not every day is going to be like that. So
Mm-hmm.
get rid of any expectation of what you think it should be, how much you should do. I always tell, I had a conversation with somebody, this is months ago now, and she was saying, I love the idea of morning pages. Anybody who's read The Artist's Way will be familiar with the idea of morning pages, where you write 3 pages every morning. And it can be garbage, but you write 3 pages. And she said to me, I'm stuck. I want to do morning pages, but I can't write 3 giant pages every morning. She's like, maybe if I had a mini notebook. And I said to her, I said, what if you wrote for time instead? Get a timer. I keep a timer with me. I use this in the journaling group all the time. But set a timer for 10 minutes. Just write for 10 minutes. And when the timer's done, you're done. So yeah, don't be critical of yourself. Just give yourself a shot, and what comes out, comes out. And Brittany, can journaling be voice to text? Yes. Yeah. So journaling could be, it could be longhand written journaling. The way I do it, journaling can be bullets, just words and phrases. You could doodle your journaling. I have a friend who calls it a doodle journal. She'll write some words and then she'll doodle on the page until she feels like she's done. Journaling could be a video journal if that's your thing, or an audio journal. So really anything goes when it comes to journaling. And I think the bigger we think, the better. Journaling is something we all think we know what it is, and we're all right, and we're all way too limited in our scope of what it is, what it can do for us, and how we do it. So if it's working for you, you're doing it right.
I love that idea of letting it not just be pen and paper, because so often I get some of my best thoughts while either I'm driving or doing dishes or other things. And I've done it before, like when I'm driving and I have an idea about like a training or something that I'm building, and I'll either Marco Polo a friend, like, don't worry about this, I'm just putting it somewhere where I can find it later. Or I actually have a voice notes app now that I use, but just getting those words out recorded somewhere. And I think looking at that as being an avenue for journaling really kind of takes away that limiting feeling of, oh, I have to be able to sit down and write.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I do my best thinking when I write, but not everybody is wired that way. If you do your best thinking when you talk, cool. You use what we've got. Seriously, because there is no wrong way to journal. And I think if I could share one thing, and this is the only thing you remember, there is no wrong way to journal.
I love that.
If what you're doing is working for you, you are doing it right. What you do doesn't have to look like what I do. What I do doesn't have to look like what anyone else in the room does. If it's working for you, you're doing it right.
So when you say if it's working for you, you're doing it right, what does working for you look like? So how do I know if it's working for me?
Well, I think that goes back to our purpose, right? So if my purpose today is to feel more grateful, and I sit and I do this, I spend my journaling time doing gratitude, writing what I'm grateful for and why I'm grateful, and coming up with a plan of how I can show my gratitude. When I'm done, if I feel more grateful and I feel better, mission accomplished, right?
Yeah.
If my goal is to figure out what I think about something that's going on in my life, and when I'm done writing, I feel like I have more clarity on that, mission accomplished. So I guess that's what I would say.
Okay. So it's really more like instant results, not necessarily, I mean, building a habit and building a pattern, I would also be success. But like you said, if you do the thing and then feel better afterwards, that would be considered working for me.
Yeah. And I would say some days I get it, right? Like some days I sit down and I write and all the magic happens.
Yeah.
And those are amazing and wonderful. And not every day is like that. Some days I sit and it's a slog. I call them sticky days, where no matter how hard I try, I can't pull a coherent thought out of my head. My handwriting is sloppy and miserable. And the whole thing just feels icky. But guess what? I showed up for myself. And that is going to pay off tomorrow or the next day or the next day. So for me, it's building that habit, building that practice. And there's a comment in the chat. It's my biggest problem, not knowing what to write. So this is where journal prompts can be super, super helpful. There's a whole, if you go back through all of my old posts, you'll find journal prompts in the comments. I've actually stopped doing that and have shifted them to my Monday morning newsletter, which actually went out Tuesday night because I forgot to click the right button to send it to everybody. Right. But having a journal prompt to guide your journaling. And I tell people all the time, choose one ahead of time, like you would pre-plan your workouts, so that when you sit down to journal, you know what you're going to accomplish. And a journal prompt doesn't need to be really, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be tremendously introspective. It could be, what was the best part of your day? What was an interesting conversation you had today? I always tell people, if you don't know what to write, talk about what you had for breakfast, right? I made oatmeal this morning. Well, how did I make my oatmeal? Well, what did it taste like? Well, how did it feel to eat that bowl of oatmeal? Oh, it was warm and comforting on a cold New England day. Great. What else is warm and comforting, right? So it's an easy way to kind of bridge into something else. Second breakfast, even better than first breakfast.
Absolutely. I love second breakfast and breakfast for dinner. Oh, I had a thought and it just left me. Dadgummit. I've been doing good about writing my ideas down, but it came to me just a second ago. Oh, I know what it was. So I've had times where I'm like, all right, I'm going to take these journal prompts and I'm going to write. And I'm like, I don't like any of those. Like, I don't like that prompt. And then I end up just being like, I'm not going to do it today. I just shut it and I quit.
Yeah. Okay. So a whole bunch of answers. Answer number one is find a different prompt. Okay. So there are prompts like everywhere in the world, like on the internet. None of them are proprietary. Nobody's prompts are really that original. We're all asking the same questions. So I do it a lot. I'm like, I need a journal prompt. I'll just Google or I'll go into Pinterest, journal prompts for whatever, the full moon, right? And then find one that speaks to me.
I think that's the key that I've been missing, is like starting with a purpose. If I'm just opening a blank page with really no specific intention of what I hope to accomplish that day, it makes it a lot harder to give any context to what those journal prompt answers might be. So that was just a little light bulb moment for me, starting with purpose, because then that kind of frames how you're going to formulate those answers to those prompts.
Yeah. So I usually choose my journal prompts based on what I need. And again, the more time I spend listening to what I need, the easier it is to be attuned to that. But I'm just looking through the list of, here's some journal prompts we've used this week. If you're just starting out, start by introducing yourself to your journal, right? Who are you? Why do you want to journal? What's important to you? What's a wish that you have? What do you want to change in your life, and what can you do to make it happen? This one was really wonderful. What in your life can you celebrate today? That was really, really fun to do. What brings you joy? What is your soul longing for? My life would be better if only I had fill in the blank, right? So I find my journal prompts tend to be more positive in nature because it helps me. Actually, I'm really quite negative. I'm wired to be negative. So journaling has really helped me to rewire what's going on up here so I can be a more positive, upbeat person. It's been like incredible for that.
That's awesome. Yeah. Just based on our conversations, I would have never guessed that you're like a naturally more negative wired person.
Yeah. Julie, let me tell you the journaling story that changed everything for me. Right. I always say I have these 4 big journaling moments. You've heard a couple of them today. You've heard started journaling as an angsty teen. I talked about journaling on LinkedIn. I talked about my morning journaling. But about 8 years ago, My now ex-husband came home one day and said, I think I'm going to be happier not being married to you. Talk about a bomb that I was
No
not
kidding.
expecting, didn't want to hear. And I knew that night I had a choice to make. I could either let myself spiral into negativity, or I could reach out and grab hold of every good thing that came my way. So that's what I did. I grabbed my journal, and I was not a consistent journaler at this point in my life, but I had enough of the practice within me to reach for it and call on it. So I grabbed my journal and I forced myself to write what I was grateful for. And it was really hard because I was not
Imagine.
grateful for very much. But I came up with 8 things. And I thought, if I can be grateful for 8 things on the hardest day of my life, it's a pretty good life that I'm living. And it really, that was the turning point for me to really use journaling to be more positive, to look for all of the good, to seek it out, to grab hold of it. And I have never, ever been happier.
That's incredible. Yeah, what a bomb to be dropped. And I love that you consciously made that choice, because a lot of people don't, and they just let themselves free spiral. So thank you for sharing that with us. I can imagine what a difficult time that was, and how that has helped you move forward and just do incredible things. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And so journaling prompts are really, really helpful. If you don't know, if you want to journal and you don't know what to write, start with a journal prompt. Again, it doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be complicated. Really start, who are you? Why are you journaling? What do you want to get out of it? That's a really great place to start.
So, in your journal, do you like, sometimes you say you want to journal, or your intention is for like like your goals or for gratitude or whatever. Do you like have different headers in your journal each day that say, today my intention is, or my purpose for today is XYZ, or does it just kind of all free flow together?
Nope, it's mostly all lumped together. The only things that I ever pull out is any particular data that I want to track. Like for a
Mm,
while, I kept a health journal, so that was in a separate book. My workout log is in a separate book. Yeah.
okay.
Um, the only thing that's really consistent in my journal is I start by writing the date, and I write it out longhand because that way I always know exactly what day of the week and day of the month and month of the year it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I mush it all together. My Sunday journaling, I only know, well, I know it's Sunday journaling because I put the date, but then I just title it weekly goal check-in. And then I keep, what week of the year it is. So I can keep tabs as I go around. I
Okay.
know some people who keep their stuff in different books, and they have 5 different books for different purposes. That's complicated for me. I'd get
Mm-hmm.
really distracted by shiny things. So if I have a new notebook, I want to write in that
Yep.
notebook. And then I have to remember that I have to put that here. And what if I take the wrong book with me? And then heaven
Mm-hmm.
forbid I go on vacation and then I have 6 books to drag around.
Yep.
I like to keep it super, super simple. It all goes in one book.
Mm-hmm.
I usually fill up a book like this a quarter.
Okay.
I'm a big believer that I want a journal that's nice enough to look forward to using, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
get anything that's too nice. This one cost me $8 at Walmart. It checks
Mm-hmm.
off every box that I have. I have a lot of people say to me, "Oh, I have this beautiful leather bound personalized journal somebody gave me, and it's too beautiful to use. I'm waiting till I have the perfect thing to write in." Guess what? It doesn't matter. It
Yep.
doesn't matter. Just find something and write in it.
Yeah.
I had a, is it here? Oh, here it is. This is a Italian leather bound journal I got for a wedding gift for my first wedding in 2001. It sat around my house. It moved from house to house to house with me. I finally pulled it out in January, and I used it for health tracking. It's
Okay.
messy, it's sloppy, it's not perfect, but I was like, why am I saving this beautiful thing for a special occasion? My health is going to be the special occasion.
Absolutely. I'd say your health is something worth documenting in a beautiful Italian leather journal.
Yep.
Speaking of journals, I think Dan had posted, I don't know, somewhere up early in the comments. He's left-handed, and so journaling is a challenge for him. So, do you have any tips for lefties?
I wish I had a good one. Yeah, keep looking until you find something that works for you. I've heard some people say like a lay flat journal, as long as they make sure it lays flat, that's really helpful. If you can get, I don't know, what if you get a notebook and you turn it upside down and backwards? So the thing, I don't know. I wish I had a good answer. Keep trying until you find what works.
Right?
And if you are somebody, some people ask me all the time, and I can't believe I didn't mention this earlier when we were talking about like voice to text. If you are somebody who's just more motivated to type or to use an app, that is totally valid too. Journaling doesn't have to be longhand pen and paper. There are so many wonderful apps out there, again, depending on what your purpose for journaling is. So the best way to journal is the way you're going to journal.
Cool. I had a couple comments come through on Facebook. One is actually my sister. I don't know why it's not feeding to Restream like it was earlier, but my sister says they make lefty spiral notebooks.
Nice.
So that might be something to look into. The other thought I had was maybe like a top bound. Because then you wouldn't have a spiral to interfere with. I find like when I journal, I am right-handed. I don't like to write on the left side of the page. I'm weird like that. And so I will just write on the right side and then flip it because number one, it feels weird. And number two, depending on which pen I'm using, sometimes it bleeds through. If I'm angry writing, it like has like the bumps on the other side. And so I find myself just using the right side, basically only using half a notebook, but it's what works for me.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. If it's working for you, cool. Who cares what other people think? Because nobody's really should be looking at your journal anyways. It's just for you.
Exactly. I think we've got about 3 minutes left. That color blue is beautiful on you, by the way.
Thank you.
So I always love to know, what is your favorite color?
Oh, it's yellow.
Yellow.
Okay. Yeah, yellow is my favorite. It's the sunniest, most beautiful color there is, and I don't have nearly enough yellow in my life.
Okay. Very good. If you could have any snack, what snack would it be?
Oh, golly. Popcorn. I'm a huge fan of popcorn. At our house, we air pop it and top it with butter and maple sugar, and it's so good.
Ooh, that does sound good.
Really, really good. I eat a shockingly huge amount of popcorn when I eat popcorn.
Very good. What was your favorite part about the Master Gardener class?
Oh, getting my name tag. When you're done, you get a name tag that says you're a master gardener. No, it's great. I learned a lot about plants and things that grow. It taught me how to be a better researcher. I'm a librarian, so I was already a pretty good researcher. Now I'm a super good plant researcher.
Very good. What's your favorite kind of plant? Especially like indoor plants, because I see your plants behind you.
Yeah, so my indoor one, I have a couple Bella palms that are so beautiful, and they're easy to take care of, and they don't require anything. I've got a pothos that I planted. I stuck it in the corner and I neglect, and she's so big and beautiful. And then I have a kangaroo fern that's really cool. A kangaroo paw fern, because the leaves look like kangaroo paws, I guess.
How cool. I've never heard of that kind.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Awesome. I love plants. For being as farm girl as I am, I don't have as green a thumb as I would like to, but I keep trying. I'm pretty good with indoor plants, especially like pothos and snake's tongue, or snake plants. But that's awesome. I love that. And I love learning more about people. Before we run out of time, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone else for being here. As a reminder, next week we'll be live again at 7 Central. I've got Pam Lewison coming live with us. She is from Washington State, where I grew up. She is involved in agriculture. She has kind of a full circle story, but just excited to have her on and to share more of my history and to share her with my LinkedIn network as well. I want to shout out again to Chris for being our producer on the backside. And need to plug my business, Joyful 4110 Consulting, because that was kind of the whole purpose for starting this as well. So thank you again, Amanda, for being here. I know I got so much out of this, and I hope everybody who came did too. And Just can't wait to keep up with your journal posts and maybe be able to get in on one of your groups one of these days.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Julie, for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you so much. We'll see everyone next week.